I'm so glad you could make it. Sit down, sit down. Oh, yeah. Oh, the band is gonna be awesome tonight. I dig it.
Hey, welcome back to Therapy Sessions. That's Thairapy Sessions. I'm your host, Auntie Hair Coach, and I interview regular people telling real stories about their beauty industry journey. I know that what we do is fun and perceived as glamorous, so it's through sheer audacity that professional stylists and barbers are creating industry disruption in their own unique ways. I've spoken with business owners, industry influencers, educators, innovators, and so much more. We share beauty industry tips, tricks, pitfalls, cheat codes, and everything in between just to remind you that you're not alone. With Therapy Sessions, it is my sincerest intention that by sharing our unique journeys with the world, beauty professionals will be empowered to discover your own uniqueness, which is where your true superpowers lie. So relax, get vulnerable, get inspired, hit that follow button, and be empowered to discover and share your own unique power to contribute to this amazing beauty industry that continues to challenge us all to keep learning, keep growing, and keep reaching for the highest version of ourselves. I'm Auntie Hair Coach, and this is Season 3 of Therapy Sessions.
I'm so glad you could make it.
Welcome back to Therapy Sessions. That's Thairapy Sessions. I'm your host, Auntie Hair Coach, and I interview regular people telling real stories about their beauty industry journey. It's Season 3, y'all, and today's guest goes by the Radical Hairstylist on Instagram, but she says we can call her Ryah. Ryah has entered the chat.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi. So happy to be here.
Thank you for taking the time. Okay, so before we get started, my listeners always want to know who they're dealing with. So just share a bit about who is Ryah.
I'm 29 years old. I work in St. Louis. I'm originally from West Virginia. I've been in the hair game for about 8 years now. And currently I am a stylist at Lock Hair in Webster Groves, Missouri.
Okay. So I was born in St. Louis
Okay.
and my grand huh?
I said, okay.
Oh, I just and my grandmother church in Webster Groves, it's First Baptist Church. I wish I could remember the name of the street. It's been there forever. I'm very, very familiar with Webster Groves. How did you get from Virginia to Webster Groves?
So my mom at the time when she married my sister's dad, we moved from West Virginia to actually Reno, Nevada, and then from Reno to Iowa, and then Iowa to here, and then they got laid off from said job, so we just never left Missouri. And I've lived all
Okay.
over the Missouri area. I grew up out in Lincoln County. I went to college out in Warrensburg at UCM. I've lived out in Creve Coeur and went to school at UMSL. I went to cosmetology school right off Watson,
Okay.
the Grabber Hair School of Design. So I've just been
Okay.
hopping all around Missouri.
Okay. All
Mhm.
right. So did you always want to be a hairstylist?
Um That's always a funny question for me because I always loved doing hair and makeup and always being interested in the beauty world. Um, I actually wanted to be more of a detective for a really long time. Criminal Minds was my TV show, and that's like what I wanted to do. But the older I got, I realized that the justice system played on television and the justice system in real life is very, very different. Um, and I'm just not someone who really enjoys school either. And I felt like I just did school for 12 years. Now I have to do school for 8 more years. And I don't even know if I'm going to like that job. And that's just a lot of
Word.
money. Um, so then I thought, oh, well, I've always liked to do hair and makeup, and it's a lot cheaper to go to cosmetology school and not as much schooling. And what I really like about this industry is you can make as little money as you want, or you can make as much money as you want. So,
Facts. Facts. So, when you decided to go to cosmetology school, was your family supportive of that?
um, yes and no. Like, you know, I would say most parents love and support their child's decision on whatever they want to do. I think for me personally, like growing up in a small town, when you heard cosmetology, you weren't thinking, it was almost like, okay, cut hairstylist, either you're this celebrity hairstylist or you just own this little shop in this small town. And I feel
Hmm.
like a lot of people didn't really see that in between of, well, you can have a steady career in this job. And so I think for my parents, like to hear their daughter go from wanting, like at one point I wanted to be an anesthesiologist, you know? So I think like hearing their daughter go from, well, I want to be an anesthesiologist to, well, I want to be a criminal detective to, well, actually, I just want to like cut hair. It was kind of like, wait, what happened to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
anesthesiologist and the detective? And like, they I don't really think anyone in my close intermediate family like has done hair. So I don't think anyone in my family like had an experience with hair. And I think anytime that they were going to get their hair done, they weren't going to high-end shops. They were going to, little cut shops, great clips, super cuts, whatever. And even if they were getting their hair colored, again, it's not like they were going to high end name brand color salons. It was, you know, oh, their friend that they went to high school with who does it in their basement now. Stuff like that. So I don't want to say they weren't supportive, but they were just like, "Hey, are you sure? Like, are you really thinking about like are you going to have a future in this career?" Essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the questions I used to get all the time was, so when are you going back to school? And it's like, I already went to school.
Right.
It's yeah, just for whatever reason, it's like people don't see the beauty industry as valid, like you said. Like, oh, because I feel like because it's fun, right? Because we enjoy our
Yes.
jobs, because it's fun, that people don't want to take us seriously. Like,
Literally, exactly. Well, and when I tell people like what schooling was, and I'm like, no, I had to like learn anatomy and electricity and chemistry, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm putting chemicals on your hair. Like, and
yeah,
if I put, with certain chemicals, if you put that under heat or you don't do the ratio correctly, like that could, you know, fuck up your shit. So
yes,
it's like,
yes. Yes,
yes.
like we literally have the chemicals to make Nair in the salon right now.
Right. Yeah, like
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to know what you're mixing together in there.
Mhm.
All
Mhm.
right. So I know that your first job out of beauty school was Great Clips, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I just know that the industry has a lot of opinions on great clips. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that topic. So I have two
Cool.
questions. The first question is, why did you choose Great Clips? And then the second is just to share your experience working there.
Okay. Um, so when I graduated cosmetology school, I know me personally, I was not ready for a high-end salon. Um, I wasn't ready for that pressure yet. I still wanted to work on a few things and like perfect a few techniques before I was, potentially going to be charging $50 for a haircut. And I'm going to be honest, and I tell anyone this who is going to cosmetology school, yes, you will learn a lot of valuable information in school, but I really learned a lot of my techniques and how I do things once I got on the floor and was working in a shop, whether it was Great Clips or whether it was more of a high end salon, like an Aveda salon that I used to work at. And it's just, yeah, like I wasn't learning balayage and, all foliage in wolf cuts in cosmetology school. A lot of that didn't exist, or it was just now coming out and just starting. And so I tell a lot of people, like, don't get me wrong, I love this job and I'm glad that I chose it for myself, but like it was a lot of work to get here. And there were a lot of days of me
Mhm.
being like, oh my gosh, did I make the right decision? Am I going to make money in this career? Because you have days where you are struggling and you're not going to be booked every day. And I think that's what's not being talked about in our industry as well is you get a lot of these high school girls who love to do their friends' hair and makeup in school. So here they are thinking that they can go to school and like make a career out of it, which they absolutely can. But you also have to like put in the work. And I tell people too, it could take you up to 3 years to build a good, solid clientele, depending on location and where you are, like city versus country, like it just really depends. And so if you're not ready to have like a week where you are booked solid and you barely had time to eat lunch, to then maybe go to the next week and you're like, am I gonna be able to like pay my rent this month? Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so yeah, I just, and the reason why, yeah, sorry, I got way off track. So the reason why I wanted to go to Great Clips for my first job was to perfect my skills. And for me, Great Clips was a guaranteed job. I know I'm probably at least going to do 5 people that day. And you're getting more of an hourly rate plus tips than commission plus tips. And I needed money then. And so it was just better for me to go to Great Clips first instead of more of a commission. I knew I definitely didn't want to like rent because I was like, I cannot afford that.
Sure.
um,
Sure.
and then my personal experience at Great Clips, I loved all of my coworkers. They taught me so much. Shout out to like Alicia, Adisa, Nisi, like all of them, because they
Yes.
really, really helped me. And I do hear the stereotypes of Great Clips and the drama, the gossip that happens. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not true, because absolutely I have seen some effed up haircuts come out of Great Clips. I've had some guests who are like, I was in a hurry, I just needed a quick trim, and this is what they did. And I'm like, how did this even happen? But I tell everyone, I mean, that can happen at a high-end salon. You could get a stylist that
Absolutely.
just didn't know what she was doing or what they were doing and just effed it up. It happens all the
Hmm.
time. And I still say to this day, those girls that I worked with at Great Clips, hands down, have some of the best fades I've ever seen. And they can do it in
Absolutely.
about 15 minutes.
Yep. Yep. So, can you clear up a rumor for me? I've always heard this, but I'm not sure if it's true.
Yeah.
Are stylists timed at Great Clips?
Are they what?
Timed. Like, do you have a certain amount of time that you have to complete a haircut in?
Yes, they do want you to be able to complete. I mean, they're not gonna come out and, like, fire you and say, like, "Hey, that haircut took you 25 minutes, you're done." But yeah,
Hmm.
they do have a standard of they want you to when I was working there, it was between, like, 13 to 15 minutes. It might have
Okay.
gone up or gone down, I'm not sure, it's been a minute since I've worked
Yeah.
there. But yeah, and I
Yeah.
try to tell people though, like with Great Clips, there's a reason why it's a $15 haircut. You're not getting a shampoo, you're not getting like a scalp and shoulder massage. A lot of times you're not even getting a style. It is sit down, we are cutting this, and then you are leaving. Now, if you
Hmm.
you could pay extra and I'm sure get a bomb ass like style and shampoo and stuff, but a lot of people weren't trying to do that. And a lot of my guests that I had coming in, a lot of times were men on their lunch breaks from work. So, I mean, a lot of people's lunch break is only 30 minutes. So, to come in and get a 15-minute haircut, now you only have 15 minutes to like go eat lunch and get back to the office, hopefully. Um, So
Hmm.
yeah, it's just a different it's really how that guest wants to spend their money, If you know you're going to walk into Great Clips and you're paying $15 for a haircut, just know you're probably going to get a $15 haircut.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do
Yeah.
want it to be around 13 to 15 minutes.
Gotcha. So I know that at Great Clips, it is mostly strictly haircuts. But when I go through your IG page, you've got a little bit of everything on there
Mhm.
in terms of textures, multi textures. You've got some braids, you've got some curls, you got some vivid, you got some special effects makeup. Um, Talk about your choice to do you specialize in any particular things, I guess is my first question.
Yeah, curls definitely. I have curls. I love people with long, thick, coarse hair. Those are my people. A lot of stylists call me crazy because they're like, I don't want, they want the short, fine, thin-haired people. And that they just always make me a little nervous because I'm like, of course they always want all the volume in the world, but you can't put too much
Mhm.
product because then it's just too flat. And like, some of those
Mhm.
old
One
ladies.
wrong move on fine straight hair and you're done.
Exactly. And some of those old
Mhm.
ladies are very particular, and I can't. I Not for me. So
Yeah.
I love long, thick, textured hair. Anything to do with that.
Okay.
Whether it's a haircut, you want
Okay.
some color, you want to style, I like to work with that hair.
And your cosmetology school that you went to, did they do a good job of teaching you how to work with textured hair, with highly textured hair?
Um, it could have been better. And it was such a shame because, and I don't blame the educator at all because, she has a schedule that she has to stick to get everyone on to the next phase. Because she was a Black woman and we had another Black teacher, and I want to say we maybe spent 2 weeks on like textured hair. And in the 2 weeks, we learned braiding, finger waves, chemical relaxers. For me, I don't know, I felt like it could have been longer, and I didn't really master the skill that I wanted to be able to master. To where now I'm 8 years into this industry and I'm just now teaching myself to do it because I was tired of asking people like, hey, can we get a little more education on Black hair, essentially? And it was just never met. And so I was like, you know what? I'm
Yeah,
just going to do it myself. And when I start making all this money, I don't want to hear nothing.
right.
So
Yes. Yeah, we did not. The school that I went to, we had one Black woman instructor, but she was in beauty school with me. Like she graduated beauty school and then just went straight to instructor school. They
Mm,
just didn't spend a lot of time on it. And when I talk to other hairstylists, I find that it seems across the board that not many places are doing much, if any. So the fact that you got some at all is more than a lot of us got.
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, they definitely can do better.
100%.
Okay, say that again.
100% could be better.
Ah, okay, let's talk about your IG name, the Radical Hairstylist. Why the Radical Hairstylist?
So, I'm sure if you scroll through my Instagram, you can see I'm pretty out there. I have a lot of strong opinions on certain things, and Um, as a queer Black woman living in America, I hear all the time that I'm being too much. I'm too loud. I'm asking for, too much and blah, blah, blah. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to live into this portrayal that you guys like have of me. You think I'm loud? Like, let me show you loud. Um,
Hmm.
and I I was just thinking about it because I'm sure as you also saw in some of my pictures, I have been arrested for protesting before. And
I did not get that far onto your page.
oh yes, yes,
Didn't see that.
that's how I know
Uh-huh.
Chris. Um and I my last arrest, which was back in 2020, it was out in Florissant, excuse me. And um it wasn't my first arrest. So I was like, okay, I know what's happening. I'm just going to essentially have to wait this out. The three other people I got arrested with, that was their first arrest, so they were a little more on the emotional side, which was totally understandable because they were pretty violent arrests. We got arrested by riot cops, so It was pretty extreme. And as we were like being booked and, waiting to be prosecuted out to Clayton, or processed out to Clayton, I was just like trying to kill the time. And I was just making conversation. And so I was talking to the police officers down there, because they weren't the riot cops. They were just the ones who were going to have to transfer us. And so I was asking them, I was like, hey, do any of you even know like why we're out there right now? And none of them did. And we were protesting because one of the officers had just was chasing a suspect in their car, ran the suspect over with the car, then proceeded to get out of the car and like beat the shit out of the suspect. And of course, went on and said that, the suspect was being violent and blah, blah, blah. Well, luckily, someone in the neighborhood caught it on their like camera and released it to the media and was like, they're lying. That did not happen. And so that's why we were up there, was because that officer was still working and no disciplinary action had been taken. And so I'm telling the officers that, and they were like, well, he's suspended. And I was like, yeah, on paid administrative leave, right? Also, aren't y'all the ones doing the investigation? So y'all are doing the investigation on yourself. So miss me with that like bullshit. And so yeah, I skipped on from that question, and then I was like, yeah, how many of you live in this neighborhood, or like live in this district that you are, supposed to be protecting and serving? And there were, I want to say like 5 or 6 officers down there. None of them currently lived in the district that they served, in a predominantly Black and brown area. These were all white officers. One of the officers said that he grew up there, but who knows? He didn't live there currently. And Florissant, like 30 years ago, was a lot different than Florissant now. So a lot has changed, I'm sure. And then I just got really curious, and I was like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, how long did you have to go to the police academy? Like, how many hours did you have to log? And this is what kind of inspired the radical hairstylist and what I would like to do with that in the future. And really changed a lot of perspective for me. And I felt that I needed to get this message out there as well. So yeah, I asked, how long did it take you to complete the police academy? And at most, I heard 1,000 hours. And the least I heard was, I want to say like 700 or 800 maybe. And that really shocked me. I knew it wasn't high just because what I see and what I know, but I thought for a police officer, that was very low, considering they get a gun, and I mean, so much power in that job title, and you're going to school for minimum, maybe 800 hours. And so I'm sarcastic and I'm a little cynical. And I was like, this is so interesting because I'm a cosmetologist, so licensed cosmetologist, and I had to go to school for 1,500 hours to do what I do. And the whole room just kind of got silent. And I was just like, I don't get a gun, but I technically have more training in my job field, and I just do hair. Like, and you are getting a whole gun, and like not just a
Right.
gun, but also access to other weapons. And it's just like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that really, really shook me a little bit.
Yeah. 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 And you said you're 29.
Hmm.
So I know that you said that Trayvon was the moment for you that kind of did Trayvon radicalize you or Trayvon just opened your eyes?
So, I'm biracial and my mom is
Okay.
white. I grew up in predominantly white spaces. And I was a little naive to a lot of things growing up just because I hadn't seen it. I had never witnessed or experienced at the time police brutality towards myself or towards any of my other black and brown family members. And I don't know, like race was just never really discussed in my family. And me and my mom have since talked about it, and she's even said, she was like, I don't regret the way I raised you, because she did have the cliche raising of like, you don't judge anyone based on skin color, religion, all that. And I know nowadays that term and that phrase is a little like, well, if you do that, then you don't get to celebrate people's differences. And I totally get that. Um, and my mom has even said, she was like, what I didn't prepare you was how people were going to treat you based on how you looked. And
Yeah.
um me moving around to all those different places that I was telling you before, each of those areas, like West Virginia, where we lived, it was pretty diverse. Like there were a lot of other biracial kids, a lot of black and brown family or people in those areas. And my family was there, so I was seeing them a lot too. When we moved out to Reno, Nevada, we lived in uh, another pretty diverse area with a lot more Hispanics, and I blended in, so didn't really experience any
Yeah.
racism or not even like microaggressions or anything there either. And even in Iowa, we lived in Des Moines, and that at the time was a pretty diverse area as well. um where I went to school, there were a lot of black and brown kids. um it was when we moved out to Lincoln County, Missouri, that I
Shocking.
yeah, right, that was a huge culture shock for me. And I
Yeah.
was only in the 3rd grade when we moved out there. And um yeah, there were a lot of rumors going about me that I, came from a dangerous part of the city and just all this crazy stuff. And I'm like it was the 3rd grade,
Yeah.
and um yeah, that's when I like really experienced racism and was like, "Oh, things are like not chill out here." And I mean, people flew the Confederate flag, still do. And my senior year of high school was 2012, and that was when Trayvon Martin happened. And
Okay.
I was thinking that a lot had maybe changed since I was in the 3rd grade to now my senior year of high school. Um, I hate to say it, but I was almost like the token, black girl of the school. And because I want to say there was maybe only 6 of us, and 4 4 or 3, I think, were boys, and, they had their own difficulties being Black men in a small town like that. So I doubt they were willing to change anyone's minds, and also no one was going to hear them out, even if they wanted to. And there were 2 other or 3 other Black girls, and I think the school just already stereotyped them, and they were darker than me too, so I think the school just was like, "Oh, look at these ghetto, Black women." And I don't think it's any Black woman's job to have to defend themselves to that. So I just think they just allowed it, unfortunately. And so when I got out there, I was like, well, I think I can, being lighter skin, I do have a privilege that I can speak up more about things that I'm not always going to be coined as the loud ghetto Black woman. So I tried to use that, and I really thought I had like made a little progress in this small, town, just saying like not all Black people come from the hood. Like my Black family comes from the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia, like they might even be a little more country than my white family. So I don't know. I thought I was making a little progress, and then Trayvon Martin happened. And like I said, I was a senior and I was in my current events class, and I obviously did my report on him. And I had a PowerPoint, I had the 911 calls, like I had everything. And as you can see, like I get really passionate when I talk about these issues, because these are very serious issues to me, and it just feels like no one listens, and then it happens again. And here we are asking the same question, well, what could we do differently? And it's like, how about y'all just fucking listen the first time? And so, yeah, I did my presentation. I'm going on about how this 17-year-old boy was murdered for simply wearing a hoodie and having Skittles and tea. And just like going on and on, and how Zimmerman wasn't even a police officer, he was neighborhood watch, like just a regular person, and he just murdered someone, and he's like out on bail, and like no one's batting an eye. And the 911 calls I had, to me, sounded like Trayvon screaming for help. Of course, some people are like, that's George, but I was like, that is a child. Like, and the fact that like Zimmerman was told multiple times by dispatch not to follow Trayvon, and he still did. And I just remember at the end of my presentation looking around and no one caring. And yeah, like no one being like, wow, that's really fucked up. Like, what's being done about this? Just nothing.
Because
And
there's always a reason, right?
yeah,
There's a reason. Like,
literally.
well, why was
Right.
he, yeah.
Yes. And what drove me even more insane that day was, so it wasn't my regular teacher. We had a sub that day, and she was like trying to argue with me and say the exact same thing, like, well, what was he doing? Well, why was he like in that neighborhood? Well, why? And it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He was 17 and unarmed. Like, what do you mean? And yeah, that day has just always stuck with me, and I was like, damn, it doesn't matter. You could be the I hate to say it, but like you could be the dancing monkey for these people, and they don't care. Like, as soon as a situation happens that doesn't fit their perfect narrative, it's game over. And there's no even talking about it. Like, it's just, well, this is just every day.
And so did you, because there was Trayvon in February, that was February of 2011? You graduated in 2011?
I
Okay,
graduated in
February
2012.
2011. Oh, okay. And then Mike Brown happens in Ferguson in August of 2014. So now you're
Right.
a few years removed from high school. Had you been going to protests up to this point?
Not really. No. I've done like the silent remembrance protests before, but never like marching in the streets, like, yelling, chanting, all of that. No, I had not done that before. Before Mike
And
Brown.
were you out for Mike Brown?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
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 Me
I was
me,
living
my
in
mom,
Indiana at the time.
uh-huh. Yeah, me,
You
my
drug your
mom, and
mom
my
out?
sister. Yeah, me, my mom, and my
Good.
sister went out. We we went out a lot in 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was living in Indianapolis at the time, and I was back and forth to St. Louis protesting a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot. And in fact, we came down to St. Louis for Thanksgiving that year, and I don't know if you were out there, but we shut down the Galleria on
Mhm.
Black Friday. We shut down
Yep.
Walmart, the Galleria. I think we went out to Chester. Is there a mall in Chesterfield, like Chesterfield Mall?
Mhm.
Um, Several places. We shut them to like doors pulled down in the mall, like not letting anybody in the mall, like shut down.
Yes. Mhm.
Um, and that's actually that time, Mike Brown, that just was so personal because I had been following it for years. So I've been, you're the same age as my son just turned 30 last week. So the
Mhm.
same age as my kids. And so my kids grew up having to hear me talk about, there's another one, there's another one, every
Right.
um however many hours. I don't remember the number of hours now, but it's like 3 a day that they kill,
Mhm.
3 a day, or at least it was in 2014. And so my kids were, growing up having to hear that. And that just took so much out of me that I'm at the point now where I just can't, like, I'm exhausted. You know what I mean? And so, like, I know that it's still happening. I know that capitalism is still horrible. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I can't anymore. And 2020, Mike Brown, and then 2020 was pretty rough too.
Right,
Because then there was that
absolutely.
whole, because I think what people don't realize is that these killings are still happening. Like I said, 3 times a day, every day. So
Mhm.
we don't even hear
Right.
about. There was one I live in Noonan, Georgia. The Noonan police just killed a guy a few days ago, and it was a blip.
Yeah.
Like if you try to
Yeah.
search for it, you can barely even find. It's like
Mhm.
so normalized. What do you
Right,
think the
right.
solution is?
What do I think the solution is?
Mhm.
A lot of people don't like my solution because I am an abolishist, and there is no reforming this. Um and I was actually just talking with one of my older white guests the other day about this. I was like, "Listen, I know, and I think anyone knows, we are aware that it's not all cops. I know not every cop is waking up that day and they're like, you know what? I'm going to go like kill me a minority because I know I can get away with it. I'm aware. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? The thing is, and cops do this too. When cops are going after a suspect, and let's just say you happen to be with said suspect when the cops arrive, guess what? You are guilty by association. Why does that not happen when cops kill an unarmed person? And people want to say, well, it's just a few bad apples. Well, how many bad apples need to fall from a tree before we start looking at the whole orchard? Like at what point is it going to be like, oh no, maybe it is a problem? And a lot of people also don't know the history of police. It stems from slave patrol. So why do we need it? Let's just the money that goes into policing is ridiculous. I know LAPD just got like a $1 billion bonus, and it's like, let's pull up LAPD's like arrest records and like, are they doing the job to get a $1 billion bonus? I don't think so. There's a lot of cover-ups that happen in LAPD and a lot of mysterious deaths. I know there was one officer who just like whistleblowed and then was found dead during like training. And it's just like, why isn't that being talked about? And then you're going to give them $1 billion? Same with NYPD. And I mean, honestly, same with STLPD. Like St. Louis, I believe we have one of the highest statistics of a Black man dying by police compared to any other state. And like 4 times, I think. And it's just like, why are we rewarding this behavior? And if someone can pull up a graph or statistics, numbers, anything that can show me when we gave police raises, the crime went down, because I'll wait.
Crazy. Okay. And you mentioned earlier, and I know we're going to move on from here because I could talk all day about injustice and
Same.
the evils of capitalism and all of the things. I could literally talk all day about it. But I do have one more question in this vein, and so you mentioned that you were talking with an older white client about this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Who brought that up, and like, how do your clients, how do they respond when you're having these conversations?
I'm real with them because a lot of times I know that my guests aren't getting a lot of exposure to other cultures, to other races. And at the end of the day, that's on them. But I also like realize we live in a predominantly white, higher class area. And not to say that there aren't Black people out there, because there absolutely is, but I don't think those Black people are necessarily inserting themselves in these white spaces either. And also, it's not Black people's job to educate white people about white supremacy. And I try to make that very clear with my guests. Like, and I'm someone who I have no problem with talking about it, but you're going to hear what I have to say. And if it gets to a point to where I'm coming to you with facts and you're just coming to me with your opinion and like your feelings and emotions, then we're done with the conversation. Because, oh, you don't like hearing about like racism? Imagine fucking living it. Like, get
That
over
part.
yourself. Get over yourself.
That part.
So yeah, I have no problem bringing up issues. And like I said, I think you made an Instagram post and I commented and was like, I had no problem telling these people like my story because we hear their story every day. We hear their narrative every day. And I'm over it. So you're going to have to listen to me. And if you're like gonna be racist or homophobic or whatever, I'm going to make you like call yourself out on it. Like, why don't you think Black people should have rights? Like, why don't you think like trans people shouldn't have access to healthcare? Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Does
And
it
I think a lot
concern
of
you that you're open?
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, that was pretty much it. Like, I have no problem with being like, no, your opinion's wrong.
Period. Does it concern you that you might lose clients because of your openness?
No, because at the end of the day, I don't want those people in my chair anyways. Before I won't name the salon that I was at before the salon that I'm at now, but that's how that salon was. It was very like I just had to take it, and because it's my job and they're paying money, and it it really fucked me up. Like, and especially because then COVID happened. And not only did COVID happen, but George Floyd and Breonna Taylor also happened. And it was just a lot for my mental. And what really did it for me was when I was working at my old salon, there was a client there, not one of mine, but she was another stylist that was right across from me. And she was saying how yesterday she was late going home by like literally, I think she said 10 minutes because there was a Black Lives Matter protest going on downtown and they had the streets shut down. And this woman was like, you know, what are my tax dollars going for? Like, the police should just get those people off the streets. And then she was like, you know, if I didn't have anything to lose, like, I would have just ran them over. And it's like, do you hear yourself? Like, you're willing to commit murder because you were inconvenienced for a few minutes? Like, that's psycho.
Yeah.
That's psycho.
Yeah. No, for sure. For
But like,
sure.
but
And
we're the ones being unrealistic when we're and all we're simply is asking for change. But we're
yeah.
asking for too much. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yes. Yes. I always used to just kind of strategically sidestep those conversations because, again, A, it's not my job to educate you. Um, and B, I was working for corporations and had some concerns about keeping my job. Um,
Absolutely.
Now I've been self employed for the last 12 years, and I carried that same attitude into the salon that now I now own of like, oh, I just have to serve everyone that walks in the door because they want service, and you just be polite and blah blah blah. And then 2020 happened. And so now everybody's all locked in their houses and they're seeing what I've always seen and known, but now
Mhm.
everybody's being forced to see it because you have to sit still. And I lived in Indiana, which is very similar to Missouri in its attitudes and behaviors. And so everybody comes back to the salon when we reopen, and it was just like I everyone was exhausted already. But long story short, I no longer had the patience. And so I started to spend the time educating that I didn't really want to spend, but like, you're not going to come in here and be stupid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
at least if you say things that are stupid, you can't say you didn't know when you get out of my chair, because now you know. And like you
Exactly.
said, here are the facts. This isn't about my feelings. Here are the facts. And so stop saying that. You sound dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did lose clients. I had one lady, Linda, I'm going to say her name. She wrote me a 3-page handwritten letter about how racist I am and how all Black people do is complain and blah, blah, blah. That's not racist at all, Linda.
Oh my God.
So
Oof.
whatever, whatever. All right. Okay. So, a lot of your work seems to be around shattering conventional beauty norms. Why is that important to you?
Because I mean, I feel like now it's definitely gotten a lot better. I feel like you can open really any magazine now and find any person of color, any different kind of culture in magazines now. But like growing up for me, and I'm sure like growing up for your kids and even you and your family, like when you would go get a magazine at like a grocery store, a lot of times it's white people. And I mean,
Mhm.
even for me going to pick out a Barbie doll, it was all white Barbie dolls. There were never like black Barbie dolls. Or and so and I feel like I can speak for a lot of biracial people who grow up in predominantly white areas. When you are not considered the beauty type, like that really does a lot with your head. And you could be the most confident person, but because of this beauty standard, you're like, well, is there something wrong with me? Like, should I change this about, should I color my hair blonde because I get more attention as a blonde? And it's just like, why is blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin the only exception of beauty? And I mean, we see it in Hollywood as well with getting when you have these books that are turned into movies and you find out, well, these characters in the books were a lot darker or had more like darker features or had more culture, and then they get fucking whitewashed on film, and you're just kind of like, well, what are you saying about like darker features? To me, that's making it sound like you don't think darker features can be attractive, and that
Mhm.
is completely false. And I remember growing up, watching those old Cleopatra movies. Why are the Egyptians white? Like, and it's like, so why is it
Like,
that,
Egypt's in Africa, right?
yeah, right, like, what's, and we can go on about the Bible too, but that can be a different discussion. Um,
Girl, we'll be here all day.
right? And yeah, and it's just like frustrating because a lot of these beauty trends that we see today stem from Black culture, Asian culture, you know, all these other cultures. And again, white people just, take bits and pieces of what they like. And now that is the beauty standard. And it's like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Why does, Kim Kardashian and J Lo and, any other lighter skinned woman with bigger features get all these praise, but Megan the Stallion is seen as like manly? what? And like, Megan's all real. Like, excuse me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, and I don't know, like, as for me too, I try my best to, when I see like a little, uh, you know, dark brown girl with like crazy curly hair, I'm always like, I love your curls, because who knows how many times she heard that day that like, oh, your hair is just too much. Or like, hey, can
Mhm.
you just like tone it down with your hair? And it's like,
Mhm.
that's her hair growing natural.
Mhm.
Like, why does she need to tone down something that is naturally occurring? And I try to
Yeah.
tell people all the time, like, black hair literally defies gravity. Like, you're going to tell me that's not amazing and like beauty just
Yeah.
in itself?
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Another thing about your IG, and we're gonna start winding down because we just been chatting away. I still have half a page of questions here, but I don't want to keep you too long.
All good.
Um, when I look at your IG page, you have a very clear handle on branding.
Thank
Is that just
you.
instinctual? Did you take classes? Talk to me about your process with your branding.
Yeah. So I do not have all the credit there. I got to give a shout out to one of my bosses, Lacey at Lock. She is amazing. She became part owner in the business with Amanda, and she was the one who kind of took over the branding and the marketing. And she has just been so awesome in sharing her knowledge with us. And we recently got another stylist, April, who I believe she might have a degree in marketing. And so her and Lacey have really been collaborating on making like the salon better marketing, but also helping each stylist brand as their own stylist. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it really got to give credit to them because they've really have pointed me in the right direction and said like, you should use this, or like maybe try this instead of that. And then of course it's me staying up to like 5 a.m. on Canva, just like figuring everything out and
Yes,
hoping for the best.
yes, yes. Shout out to Canva. I love Canva.
Canva's
They make my
amazing.
life so much easier.
So easy. Yes.
All right. So we talked about the fact that you're multi-talented. You do all textures of hair, all of the things. But another talent or you're extending your talents to podcasting. Talk about your podcast. Have you started it yet?
I haven't started filming yet. I've been writing
Okay.
my scripts, getting like everything ready because I'm actually moving the end of this month. And
Oh,
my new place, I'm going to actually have like an office set up. So I'm just like preparing to start filming once we get settled into this new place. Um
yes.
but yeah, I just want to bring some of my knowledge to the world and my opinions, and really like intertwining hair and society, like politics, just so these conversations aren't uncomfortable. And you can have, you can, I don't know, get to know someone else and where they're coming from without really even having to like know them, or like just being able to empathize with people outside of your normal circle. Has he been out? Yeah. When?
I
I'm
love
gonna
that.
you
I
take him
want to
out.
come on when you get it. together.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's my
So we
goal.
can
I
continue.
want to start um just like with a few, like, this is me, this is what I want to bring, and a few videos that can go about that. But eventually I would love to interview local stylists and like kind of what you're doing, like why they got into this industry. Um what do they what makes them stand out from like other stylists. And then eventually once I run out of stylists, then maybe talk to other local business owners and entrepreneurs to where like we can all just kind of collaborate. And I'm sure, like, I'm sure Atlanta has a lot of talent. St. Louis has so much hidden talent here, and no one's just giving them a platform to be like, hey, come on here and just say what you do. And I want to be
Yeah,
that platform for people.
good stuff. Good stuff. What are you excited about right now?
Ooh, I I feel like for the first time, I'm just really excited for what the future holds for me. I feel like I've been doing really well at my job. I'm finally at a place where like I have a supportive team backing me. I actually love the place where I work. I enjoy a lot of my guests that not only do I love and doing their hair, but like I could also be friends with a lot of my guests outside of me doing their hair. Um, and just I recently, so back in June, I had my gallbladder taken out. I had surgery. And yeah, it was kind of a big deal for me because, like, I had never even broken a bone before. So then to, like, go have surgery, I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't know, when I got out of surgery, it was like a switch flipped in my brain and was like, girl, what are we doing? We got to do a little better. And I feel like my goals are just a little more clear, and I can see that path to get to my goals. And so I'm just making that path right now to where once I move, I can just get it going, and we're only
Hmm.
going up from here. So
Yes, good stuff. How can the audience follow your movements?
You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok. I'm gonna come out with a YouTube eventually, but I would say like my predominant social medias are definitely Instagram and TikTok.
And that's at Radical Hairstylist or The Radical Hairstylist?
The Radical Hairstylist.
The Radical Hairstylist on Instagram and TikTok.
Yep, and I'm on Facebook too, but do people use Facebook?
I hate Facebook. I hate social media though, to be fair. Like I hate them all equally, to be honest. But at least Instagram is like pretty pictures, and I don't generally find myself having to argue with too many people on Instagram.
Right, right. Absolutely.
I appreciate your transparency with me today, Ryah. I've had so much fun getting to know you. And I look forward to watching you grow, and I'll be keeping my eye on your page to see all the cool stuff you have going on. Thanks so much
Thank
for stopping by.
you. Yes, thank you so much. This was great. I had so much fun. Thank you for considering me.
Thanks so much for listening. If you're a beauty pro with a story to tell, or you have a stylist you'd like to hear from, you can DM me via IG at Auntie Hair Coach, or use the Contact Me form on tasha-davis.com. Or if you're feeling really spicy, send an audio message in Spotify. Whether you loved it or hated it, please leave a rating, like, and or follow, because it does something fancy with the algorithm. I'm Auntie Hair Coach. Ta-ta for now.
I'm so glad you could make it.